I believe it must have been around 1993, 94 in Arizona. And I went to my sister, her name is Andrea, and her husband, my brother Harrington, Luna, their home. They were having a ceremony, a teepee ceremony, and I went over and she had told me she had been, there would be visitors from Europe, and so when I arrived, they were there. And as soon as I walked in the door, the first person I met was Tarmo. Tarmo came right up and greeted me, and Tom, and they introduced themselves. And Tarmo had a pair of overall jeans, and he meets me, and then he says, "Here, I need these to be fixed. I want to wear them tonight." And he wanted me to hem the pant. And so, oh, okay. So I went and I got a needle and thread and fixed it for him, and he wore it in the teepee, and he sat by me. Him and Tom sat by me, and so I sat with them all night, and every now and then, he would ask me a question. But I believe that was may have been like the second time they had been in the teepee, because they originally were up in the area of the Grand Canyon, and with the tribe, my mother's tribe, of the Havasupai. And there was a gathering there at a place called Red Butte, and the tribes were having like a protest against uranium mining. And someone brought Tarmo and Tom to that gathering, and they saw the teepee, and so they went to the teepee. They recognized it like a coda, and so they came to the teepee and opened the door and came in, and my sister and brother Harrington and Andrea Luna were sitting in there, and so they visited, and Andrea told them, "Come back, we're having ceremonies tonight, you're welcome, come back." And so they came back that night and sat up all night in the ceremony. And so at that time they told him, Andrea told them that if they ever wanted to come to her home and visit. And so shortly after that they came, and that was when I met them at the ceremony. And after that, we just stayed connected. And one time they came to Arizona, they called me and said, "We're coming, will you take us to a ceremony?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, I can do that." And so I called my uncle, asked him if they were having ceremony, and they said they were, but it was like 3 or 4 days later on the weekend. Tarmo calls me again and says, "Okay, so did you work it out?" And I said, "Yeah, okay." And he goes, so he said, "Okay, we're coming." I said, "When are you coming?" He said, "Tonight." And I said, "Oh, wait a minute, I work." And so what we ended up arranging was for them to go to Santa Fe, and that I would, they didn't realize the distance. They were in LA, drive all the way to Santa Fe, then they said they would drive all the way back to Phoenix, Arizona, and pick me up, and we'd go back out in northern Arizona for the ceremony. So I told them, it's, I'll go ahead and get a ride to Gallup, New Mexico, when they could pick me up. The closest place to get to where the ceremony was. So that's what we did, and I took them to a ceremony there on the Navajo reservation. And so it was there that in introducing them, I said, they're singers. And so one of the elders said, sing a song, sing one of your songs. And they said, well, we usually don't sing without the guitar. And but then Tom said, oh, we can sing a traditional song. And they sang that, the traditional song that they sing in their concerts. And everybody was just, very moved by it. Because Tom told a story about how, I guess in the Soviet time, they were not allowed to do Estonian, culture, songs, their dances, all of these kind of things. They weren't, or even supposed to not speak their language. So he told that story, which is the same story that we know. That's the same thing that happened to us. And so he told that story to them. And he didn't know about our history. He just told the story of what happened here. And he said, but the people, they decided that, they said that they were going to sing their songs. And because the songs were, like the spirit of the people. And he said he was, I think, maybe 11 or 12 years old or something, but they had the singing festival, I guess. And he said they sang, and he said, we sang with all our heart. And he said, do you think that God didn't hear us singing for our freedom? Do you think he didn't hear it? No. We were singing, and so were the animals were singing, the birds, everything was singing with us, he said. That's how he felt when he was singing those songs. And then he talked about the singing, what's it called? The Baltic Chain. When the countries joined together and joined hands and formed what they called the Baltic Chain to declare their independence, and that there were no guns, no violence, just their songs, and they declared their independence. And so he told them that story. And so when he shared the story with them, it was like immediately there was this connection. Your story is our story, and so so that was how they became so, in that, with that family, they became very, connected and close. That's the same thing with in southern Arizona where we are, where I met them. That's our story too. So we had all this in common. And so that's how we became, we say, related. We formed this relationship. They started calling me their sister. And, well, one time, Tarmo said to me, so what am I? What am I? Are you my sister, or what am I? And I said, well, you could be my brother. And he said, oh, well, we'll think about it. And so later he said, finally, in a ceremony, he took me as his sister. And that's how I made my relationship with him and Tom. They don't have a sister, so I became their sister. And ever since then, that's what we've been doing from that time on. And coming here to Estonia was also I think when they gained their independence, they were finally able to come home after being in exile. And so they were finally able to come home. They came home and visited. They came back, and when they came back, they came to visit with me again, and they showed me a picture of Estonia, of Old Town, and showed it to me, and I said, wow, it's beautiful, I said. And they said, well, someday you will come to our home, so we can treat you with the same hospitality that you treated us with, welcoming us and sharing, taking us to meet other relatives. So they said they said, someday we'll do that. And sure enough, they got the letter that there was a plan to have a first American festival, and told Tarma and Tom that maybe they could find some Native Americans to come. And so that was so they asked me to do that. So I organized a group of Native Americans. It was going to be like an arts and cultural festival, and so I got a Hopi silversmith. He makes jewelry, silver jewelry, in the way that the Hopi style is, and then I got I went to a huge art show first, and I visited different artists that I knew, and I told them about coming. Asked them if they would be willing to come with me on this trip, and I was surprised there were a number of them that were afraid to. They didn't want to come. They didn't want to fly over the ocean. And then there were those, and then of course they didn't have passports. They hadn't traveled out of the country before. So eventually I found a Hopi potterer, one of the really well-known potter. She makes Hopi pottery, and I brought her, and then I had then my sister Andrea Luna, she sings, she does the Native American church, the ceremonies, sweat lodge, all those kind of things. And a brother named Dallas Dilo, he came and he helped. He does the Native American church ceremony. And and then a little boy, Andrea Luna's little son, we called him Bubba. His name is Sawaro, and then me. I came along to keep things organized, and so we came here that time. And we arrived here, and we were, the way it was set up was that the U.S. Embassy, the U.S. Ambassador, the U.S. Cultural Ambassador, the Estonian Defense, the Army, the theater, like the concert halls, and the University of Tallinn, and the University of Tartu. All of these, they all created programs for us. So we come, and they provided the space, they provided everything we needed to do this festival. And we traveled all over Estonia. Each different areas we went to, we would stop and we would do songs and dances, and talk to them about our spiritual practices and belief. And so we built the first sweat lodges over at Rakamari. That year we went there, and we built the sweat lodges there. And hundreds of Estonian people came. And so we built the sweat lodges, and we put up the teepee. And what was really interesting was when Tarmo and them asked me to bring a teepee, and they asked me, what do I need? I called my different brothers and asked them, how tall are the poles, what's the diameter, how, thick do they need to be, how long a rope they need, and all these details. And I sent them to Tarmo and them, and they gave them to the defense, the soldiers. And the soldiers went out and collected poles for us. They got the teepee poles. And they brought wood, and so we had that kind of support. And I think it was like that. I'm not sure exactly how many years, maybe 5 years, 6 years or so. They supported us. They sponsored, this, bringing us here and planning the program. And so later on, we kind of, went. Their priorities changed, and we continued to. People here in Estonia took an interest and wanted to participate and support it and do the work, volunteer work that needed to be done to organize and bring everything together for the gatherings. And so that's what we've been doing for about 27 years. And still going. We just finished this one, 2023, and it's awesome. It's good. Really enjoy it. We're like on, I believe, something like our 4th generation of people come, 4th generation come of the family of these Indiaanilaager. And so that's really, that's really special. I guess, what do you call, I'm not sure, but the lifetime of these gatherings, all those years, and seeing the generations, the people that came the first time, then their children, then now their children's children. So, we count ourselves as the first generation, Tarmo and them. We count those as the first generation, and then, so it's just been growing and growing. It's beautiful. So I think that's about it for now. Austin can talk about how he came this first time.
So myself too, like I believe it was around the same time frame, 1993, 1994. And I met them too at the same ceremony that Mona mentioned. I actually met them inside the teepee. They were already in there, and so I came just before the ceremony started. So we proceeded, and towards morning, they were able to express themselves to all of us inside the teepee, and they told their story about how they got to the meeting there and why they were there, and to hear them speak about the oppression that they received by the Russian government and why they had to go in exile. It was just like, it was unbelievable to me. I first of all thought, well, I thought those kinds of things weren't happening anywhere in the world, but that was my limited knowledge of the world, ongoings at that point in time. So I felt that, they were very sincere about their need to regain Estonia's independence. And, I saw them as very strong-willed individuals and determined to do so. And so, of course, I felt compassion for them and all of you as Estonian people, because, like Mona said, our Native people have gone through the same thing. So that right there was that connection, as she mentioned. And then so I didn't stay in touch with them that much after the ceremony, but I was very pleased to talk with them after the ceremony and learn more about them. And I was able to enjoy their song that they sang. And the next morning after the ceremony was over, because I think that was the time that Mona had her son he was getting married inside the teepee, because the roadman was Delaslo was a judge at the same well for Gila River Indian community. So he performed the ceremony for Mona's son and his bride. Then after that, they were asked to sing a song for them, and so that was beautiful. That was great, and it was of course I prayed for them as well in the ceremony after they spoke, and then after some time, Mona told me that they had invited her and others to go to Estonia to share with them our ways of life and Native American spirituality, and certainly with the Native American Church. And I couldn't go. I was just too busy with what I was doing in my life at that point in time with my young family. And but I think after about 5 years later, I was able to finally go, and she asked, and I'm glad she didn't stop asking. So, and when I came, I was just amazed at how cordial the people were, wanting to thirst for knowledge about Native American spirituality. We were treated so kindly. And so my thought in coming was, yes, exactly, to share what knowledge I had about our ways of living as Paul, and then of course being involved with the Native American Church and the sweat lodges. And I was very, very honored to be doing those kinds of things, and sharing the knowledge with the Estonian people. And I too, well, on my end, I was surprised to learn that you also used to live in teepees, and then also that you were very much in tune with nature, but for the fact that the Russians came and just changed everything, there were very few people that still retained that knowledge. So I know Tom and Tharma were of the mindset that those people that had that knowledge should be contacted or become involved, and then spread that among your own people to restore that and to build upon that. And since the time I came, probably, I can't remember the year exactly, but I've only been here probably about 8-9 times. But since the first time I came into now, 2023, I am amazed at the generations that Mona mentioned that have come up, and to have these young people be involved with the camp, and even the ones that have kind of come consistently. It's always good to see them, and they talk about how their mindset has changed to be able to live a better life and to be able to move forward and really go ahead and learn and restore the traditional knowledge that you as Estonians have. So I'm grateful to have been involved with that whole process, and so that's my recollection of the whole start of the process of the Indian camp. So, and I hope to come many more years.
I could say that this camp this year was really I guess the fulfillment of the work that has been happening, that we've been doing, not just the Native Americans, but the Estonian people and the people who come to the gatherings, that they have embraced certain things about that we offer during the camp. They dance. They do the morning sunrise dance with Epi. We used to do powwow, a big drum, and we would bring dancers who would dance. and and uh, and then we in the ceremony, in the sweat lodge, the songs and the flow of things in the ceremony of the sweat lodge, the the people now, they know, the ones that have been coming, they know the procedure. And so they in turn, for new people who come, they in turn instruct those others or teach those others about what we're doing or how we're doing it. Same thing with building the fire for the heating up the stone people that we use in our sweat lodge. How that's prepared. There were these Estonian men who watched and participated and learned how to set up the fire, and there were some who did it for years and now have other things that they're involved with in their life, so they can't come to the camp. But what they did was they trained and taught others who were there to help. And so now this year, we had about 4 main fire keepers that took care of the fire. They know what to do, and then they can tell the other people that come to help with the fire. They can instruct them. We don't have to be right there and tell them. Same thing with building the sweat lodge. We didn't have to even go to the lodge. They went ahead and did it. They put it together themselves, and then the same for the teepee ground. The teepee, getting that prepared, and putting up the teepee, seeing how it's done, being instructed, but getting the feel of it. What does it take to lift up those poles, and what you do with it, and so they're and they really stepped up and went ahead and picked up a pole or did the work it took. And so to me, and then of course when we did the ceremony of the teepee, our drum chief, Martin, he, his first time doing this. He barely learned. We decided to ask him earlier in the week before we got there, and so then when we got there, Carl had the drum, and so he had the job of instructing Martin on how to tie it together and then practice drumming, so he could know how the beat is. And so Saturday night he took care of it all night long, took care of the drum. So and then people who sing, they picked up songs, made some songs, Estonian language, and sing their beautiful songs, and get a feel and hold the instruments and use them. So to me, this is like almost what is often referred to as completing the circle. Completing the circle, the circle of it's like being the infant, being just kind of like gaining your independence is like an infant, being reborn, and then going through that childhood of getting familiar with what you do and how you're going to live, what you can eat, those kind of development, and then after that you become an adolescent, a young country that is really not young, but it's young in its independence after 200 years of occupation or something. and then becoming the adult, being now in knowing and kind of having an idea of like how you're going to conduct life, how you're going to conduct your survival. Make sure you're the survival plan, I guess. How are you going to respond to certain things and big changes that are occurring in this world today that affect us or you, in this country? So that's the adult part of the development, and then the last quarter is the elder, getting into that elderhood. But again, it's what I was told was, it's like old gives way to new, and new gives way to old. It's like old becomes new, new becomes old. That cycle like that. And so even when they move into their elderhood, it's also new. New way of being as an elder, new way of thinking, new way of, taking care of things, new way of living as an elder. And so that's kind of like what I see is it's been like that whole cycle of life from that time, first time we started the gatherings, and people have grown up. The people have grown through it, grown through this, the lifetime of the gatherings, and then they had their children who started that cycle. And there's now, I always think about the one girl, her name is Mona, and she's 27 years old. And we always say she was conceived at the first camp. And so she's grown up in this whole life. Her life is the life of the camp, And so, and there's others too, like Marilise. She was just a young girl when she first came, and she comes back every year. And now, and when she had her little first child, her baby girl, brought her to the camp, and at the camp, we all witnessed her the first time she stood up. And we were in that opening circle, all the people standing around in the circle. She crawled away from her mother into the middle of the circle, and then she got up and stood up and in front of us all. That was a beautiful sight. So, yeah, there's a lot of growth that has occurred. A lot of growth, and it's just, I think about kind of like, I guess I think in sort of like metaphors. It's like this tree, and how trees get, new branches. So we have now, these the younger generations, or the ones that are coming for the first time, are those new branches that are being added to this tree. So that's how I think about it, and it's beautiful, and I love it. I love coming here. I know it's changed a lot, but, well, not necessarily changed a lot. The land hasn't changed. It's the I guess the appearance. Because to me, the first time I came with Tamara and Tom when they first came back to the country. And when we arrived in the port to see the skyline, the medieval appearance, and then, but you know, now today the skyscrapers that you see in New York City or anywhere else in a big city are very present, and so you see that change, and there's influence, you know, that here now. And but I think Estonian people are very resilient, strong, you know, courageous, brave people. And I always let Tom and Tomo's mom, we call her Mama VU, she is a prime example of the strength and courage of Estonia. Yeah, she went through all that, and, you know, still was a loving, kind, generous mother, woman, grandma, you know, relative. She still came out of that with that kind of spirit, good, strong, happy, healthy spirit that she's shared with all of us. All of us, the Native Americans that have come over these years, she's been there with us. She shared with us, opened her home to us, put food on the table for us, and let us make ourselves comfortable in her home. I owe it. She's the one. I owe it. I say, you know, she's the one. She's the heart. She's been the heart and the spirit of, and the, you know, like the body of, you know, being the mother. She's the one who, you know, I feel like I owe it all, you know, this opportunity, you know, that we've had over the years. So I say, thank you, Mama VU. I think one of the other things that, you know, since we've been coming here, is we visited some very, very ancient sacred places. One sacred place I think of is the trees. We went to the trees. We go there. We make you know, at the rock, you make your offering, and then you go, you know, ask for permission, and you go in, and then you come out again, and you know, the procedure, the way of thinking when you're there, understanding and knowing that it's a special place with a special spirit, energy. And when we we had these different places we were going to visit, and many of the people weren't aware of it, but there were people who were aware of these places, and they came out and they took us to these places. And the way we are, you know, it's like if you're going to go to somebody else's home in their territory, and we, you know, of course, we say we need to acknowledge the ancestors, ones that the original people of the land. We acknowledge them. So when we go to their place, we make an offer tobacco, or maybe take a prayer smoke, and so our guides, the ones who took us to these different places, they would tell us, we have to, go through this like a doorway, and you have to give something. So we always had our tobacco, and we always made our offerings, and so that was a similarity we had. But at the same time, there were many Estonian people who hadn't been, who didn't know about these places. But it was like, and then there, and then the Odilesi Spring in Saaremaa. There's a spring there, and on Saaremaa, in the forest, the old forest, there's like a little lake in there where the eagles live. We went there, and then there's another place along the beach, like a beach, and that's where the otters and the sea lions, and they live there. And that in order to get to the area where the eagles live and the lake, you have to walk. And so we walked, and we had to walk in silence to not disturb any of the animals, or disturb the eagles. And so that was the way we went. We just walked through the forest. If we had to say anything, we whispered, And so we went through there, went in there. And and so I think we're all faced with that moment, that time when we have to make a decision about what's going to happen to spaces like that. Are we going to go ahead and go in there and cut down the trees, the forest, the old forest where the eagles live? Or are we going to go build a deep seaport right there on the area where the sea lions and the otters, other animal life there live? And so I think that part of the work, the gatherings and sharing what we share, has created like a awareness again of how small is your space where you live, and how quickly it could be literally, destroyed by how we decide what we want to do with the land, the water, the air, all this plant life, all this animal life, by what we decide. So I think it created an awareness among the people, and even to identify, the trees as being sacred, like the juniper tree or the oak tree, them, and we know those things, but we don't even, a lot of times, don't acknowledge it or say it, and I think that and it's what I really like is that by us being here, then there's people who come forward and tell us, that's juniper, and it's one of our sacred trees. That's oak, and that's one of our sacred trees. And certain water, like the springs, those springs, being more conscious of it and going to it and getting water from it, those kind of things, I think, just kind of like put into motion that recognition again and reconnection again. Some of the people I met would say, "Oh, we don't, we used to have, these, these ways, but, we don't anymore." They would say that, but then next thing I know, they have maybe a little bracelet or beads made out of what is it made of? Oak? Those little wooden beads. So they give that to you and they tell you, oh, that's, that's a special wood. So, they know it, but will say they don't know it. But I think it all creates a lot of, it's not just them, it's also us. We all, this exchange strengthens us both. Strengthens us both by us, whatever we talk about, and then the people we meet and talk with, either in Sweat Lodge, teepee, or just visiting, talking. There's this exchange, and then it's kind of like that, aha, I know what you're talking about, So it's this exchange of energy and exchange of knowledge and the old wisdom. And I think that's the spirit of the ancestors working on us, working with us. So those are some things I just think of right now.
Seeing that Estonians have come to the camp are more aware of the environment and the need to protect it for the good of everyone, especially those yet to come. The whole matter about, relearning their own history and their traditions, I think is also something that has evolved. And to know that there was a certain way of honoring all the elements surrounding you, living in nature, before Christianity was introduced to you, the same with our people. And so, then for me, seeing and hearing what he did in these past few years and even today, it, for me, strengthens my belief that we need to continue as now the elders of my community to inform our young people, because some of them think the same way, that Christianity has always existed, and we have to correct them and say, no, there were things before that, and it's because they are so dominated by social media and distracted by all of that, so it kind of takes them away from that. But it is refreshing to see some of our young people, they've embraced our songs, our knowledge, our traditions, and to have them participate in the rain ceremony we just had just before I came. It was just beautiful to see that. So, that needs to happen not only with our people, Estonian, but really all over the world, and certainly indigenous people. Some indigenous people I know in South America just want to be left alone and, not have their environment destroyed. So yes, let's do that. Leave them alone, because in South America, the trees are the lungs of Mother Earth, and we all need that. So I think having this sharing of knowledge and embracing each other, to know that we're not alone in our challenge to move forward and have a good life, that will be free from all the contaminants that we've created as man in the last decades, hundreds of years, that we need to reverse all of that, again, for the good of all of us. So it's all good teachings.